Good news everyone, you still got time to get your very own plush version of our mascot ranch. We've had over 300 pre-orders so far, so if you want to grab your very own and make this a reality for everyone, check out the link in the pinned comment below and secure your very own. We can do this, guys. Let's get on with the video. Kuriza is understanding the art of friendship, whereas other people are understanding the art of endship. Hey guys, MasakoX here. Now, the idea of Freeza having a family isn't exactly a novel concept within the world of the Dragon Ball fandom. In fact, the principle has been around for decades and was originally touted in a gag manga that Toriyama came up with back in the mid-90s. As you could tell from a Toriyama manga, it doesn't really have much in terms of depth or novel storytelling. It's just there to sell jokes and to ponder the ludicrous for the sake of some light entertainment. Fair enough. It really surprised Haverok and I when a lot of you out there during our roundtable live streams actually wanted to know more about this. The existence of this side character was well known, but then also you wanted to see them in an actual story in some kind. Back in the mid-90s, we saw the debut of Frieza's son, Kuriza. It may sound like an OC type of character, that Frieza wanted to settle down one day and have a family out in the space suburbs and have a lawn and squash lessons with a bloke called Gerald every Thursday, but no. Kuriza was made just to have a Frieza-like character in the manga Nekomajin Z without actually having to have the silly inclusion of Frieza himself. It has the same amount of Toriyama shrugging as ever. The issue we had with trying to get this character into the main story is that, for the most part, Frieza doesn't need a son or have an urge to have one until very much later on into the story, hypothetically of course. There's just been no compulsion, nor has Frieza reached that time in his life where he's potentially, whatever his kind would refer to as, getting broody. In the last part, Haverok had managed to hit upon the idea of perhaps having Frieza get these feelings after the Broly movie, where Frieza had felt such wonderment for Broly's power, someone who he had taken in, like almost a space son, finally starting to appreciate the power of Saiyans instead of just going at odds with them for the sake of it. It took him long enough, didn't it, I say? About nearly half a century? This is a post-Dragon Ball what if, so there are things that we need to muse over, but we are keeping the timeline around the era of the end of Z, so we're not going too far. It's not as zany as going far back as the Bardock convinced the Saiyans timeline from back in the day. In this world, Goku and Vegeta are basically becoming Kuriza's babysitters, and in that time, Frieza had hoped that his son would understand whatever these monkeys understood, and maybe find some kind of clarity in his life. Also, he probably would want to do it out of spite for his brother, Cooler. Either way, Kuriza has managed to come out of his shell, and even made a friend in the daughter of Vegeta of all people. So you can understandably tell that that's going to cause some trouble. Where's the popcorn? After being spurned by Vegeta, Kuriza has now taken up residence at Mount Paozu with the Song family. After realizing that he liked making friends, this son of Frieza is feeling a little more sociable than when he first arrived and less likely to cause trouble. In Goku's homestead, the young Iceling is spending time with Pan, and unlike the prince, Goku isn't telling him to get lost. This is a nice change of pace, he dare say so. Though Chi-Chi is pretty stressed about her granddaughter's well-being, thinking that this is all just a ploy of the Galactic Emperors to bring them down from within, Goku and Goten are watching him, taking turns to ensure everything is alright, so there is some kind of helicoptering going on. But sure enough, everything is actually hunky-dory. The local dinosaurs do not feel the same way, as the two are having some insane flybys and chases going on around the local cluster of reptiles. First it was Gohan and now this. Those dinos never get a break. There is one particularly haggard dinosaur with a missing section of tail who has seen this all before. It never changes. This can go on for hours, with Pan absolutely loving the chance to fly around the place with such freedom, and someone who can actually fly as well. Still though, the older Saiyans have to steer the two back home from time to time, so that they don't wander too far away from home. Even though it really isn't much of an issue since Pan can sense energy, so she can actually tell how to get home, but force of habit with your family and all that. Finally, it is time for their first dinner, which for Chi-Chi is a worrying time. Usually she can expect to have a mixed bag of manners and etiquette with her husband, making up the worst of said manners, despite being grateful for the food itself, of course, don't get him wrong. She just wished that he would, for once, use a napkin for its intended purpose. Now with Kuriza here, she dreaded what kind of slovenly space manners that he would bring to her table. But surprisingly, she needn't have worried. Kuriza not only has decent table manners, especially for someone of his perceived age. They prepared him some seafood, thinking that that's all he ate, as Goku remarked that one time he remembered Vegeta talking about Frieza seeming to like crabs for some reason, from what he could recall. Kuriza even thanked Chi-Chi courteously, as well as without having anything in his mouth while doing it.
That was delicious, human woman. What you have prepared is far better than the things that we usually eat at home.
Chi-Chi is taken aback, but in a good way. She blushes a little bit with the compliment, as she didn't expect it from the son of Freeza.
Thank you, dear, but you can call me Miss. That would be a more polite way of referring to me.
Kuriza is receptive to learning more about Earth culture and nods fervently.
As you wish, Miss Human Woman.
It's an improvement. At the same time, though, she notices that as much as Kuriza can be quite snarky with the likes of Goku and Goten, he seems to act pretty cordially towards her. She's quite curious as to why this is. Did Frieza teach him to respect women and be polite towards them, as well as potential hosts? Perhaps Frieza wasn't so callous when you really looked into his daily habits. Later that day, she decides to ask him about this. Kuriza is happy to satisfy her curiosity.
Oh, Miss Human Woman, I know better than to get on your bad side.
Okay, she didn't expect that. Bad side? Whatever do you mean?
Well, I've carefully observed the way that you treat the two other monkeys that live here in your house. Normally, they would be running riot and causing havoc without a care in the world, but one shout from your good self causes them to cease their oafish behavior. You must be really powerful to be able to quell their temperament and impertinence.
Chi-Chi is stunned, but not insulted. She found what Kuriza just said strangely endearing. The next day, Pan and Kuriza are playing as per usual, when the latter asks Pan a question.
Might I ask when we can see the other monkey girl? Oh, Bulla? Well, my grandpa is trying to convince Uncle Vegeta to bring her here to play. Wait, so Son Goku is your grandpa?
Pan laughs a little bit at Kuriza being silly.
Duh! Who do you think I was? Just some random kid? Don't you know what a grandpa is? Of course I know what a grandpa is. I do have one, but I've never met him. He passed before I was born. Also, my father doesn't talk about him much.
This calms Pan down, realizing that she probably touched a nerve.
Well, do you have any other family?
She says a little more quietly.
I suppose there is Berry Blue and Kikono. They hang around a lot and taught me most of what I know now, but they're not exactly family. They are servants of my father's, so, well, I think it's only me and my father in terms of family.
Pan then pats Kuriza on the back quite firmly.
Well, I can be family if you want. Everybody should have a family. I'm like, your monkey sister.
Kuriza doesn't know what to say. The affection that Pan was showing him was similar to Bulla, but without the spectre of Vegeta around to quash it, this outreaching was really nice to receive. He smiles and nods a little, as if to say thank you. Perhaps he can have two families after all. Meanwhile, back out in space, some of the remainder of the Frieza force are still scouring some of the worlds that were once lost during Frieza's absence. Now with their leader back, they were looking for new recruits on these directionless planetoids, as well as reclaiming their own technology that was lost in the meantime. We now follow two Frieza soldiers as they are busy checking out an icy planet that's true name was lost to time. During the occupation of the Cold Force, it was known as Cold Planet 720, and this was one world that King Cold left to himself after handing over the reins to his son. As a result, it was omitted from the Frieza Force archives as it was under the control of his father, and therefore outside of Frieza's jurisdiction. Think of it as King Cold's special shed, where nobody else is allowed to interfere.
Hey, 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 stay out of my shed.
The soldiers were a little nervous about coming here. They had found the coordinates to this place in an old manifesto somewhere from what had been reclaimed from one of the earliest Frieza acquisitions.
Well, if we find something special, Lord Frieza will reward us handsomely. Did you hear how much he paid that green-skinned girl that brought her back that huge Saiyan?
Yes, but don't spill the beans over the comms. If Lord Frieza has no memory of this place, He might think we're insulting his intelligence. And you know what happens if you insult his intelligence.
Oh, right.
The two soldiers, Bilberry and Prune, then come across a huge laboratory complex in a deep valley. What's really mysterious here is the fact that most of the machinery is not only in one piece, but it's also functional and operating before their very eyes. From what they can gather, there seems to be no life forms nearby. It all seems to be automated and has been for decades. Bilberry, who is the younger of the two, is more eager to check out this quarry. Inside, he finds 3 small capsules and 1 massive one. It still has an insignia on it, freshly preserved as if it had been printed yesterday, dating back to the times of the Cold Force.
Prune, I think you should take a look at this.
What do you think this is? Some secret super soldiers? Maybe the next Ginyu Force?
Well, should we check inside?
Bilberry decides to press the release button on the biggest capsule. He won't be wasting his time on those smaller ones when you can go for the biggest prize first. It starts to slowly open, covering the whole room with steam from the hydraulic release. For a moment, the two of them are consumed by the vapor, but that clears soon enough, and the mood turns to that of being completely shocked from what they see emerge. The silhouette in the smoke looks just like...
Lord Free...
mutters Prune before he gets sent flying into a wall.
How long? Asks a voice calmly.
How long? What? My lord?
Bilberry is completely stunned. How long was I asleep, soldier? Bilberry is quivering with confusion. The figure looks to the armor he is wearing and recognizes it. The figure sounds slightly crestfallen. I see that the Freeza Force is still a thing, yes?
Yes, Lord Freeza has recently returned after his unfortunate demise.
Demise? What about his father?
His demise was more permanent, my lord.
And who was the one to do this, soldier? Barely getting a chance to stammer out a reply, Bilberry blurts out,
The same people who managed to defeat Lord Freeza! It's Saiyans! The last 2 remaining ones, and the filthy half-breeds, but there are wish-granting wolves and...
Start from the beginning. I wish to know everything. Do kindly release my squadron from their cages. Also, I think your friend might be in need of medical attention. I would hate to waste a soldier so soon after acquiring one. Get to work.
Yes, sir.
In the meantime, Frieza is off in space doing his usual conquering of planets, having returned to his mundane, everyday existence. What he doesn't like, however, is how often his thoughts start to drift back to Kuriza. He is almost constantly wondering if his progeny will fulfill his mission and take down the Saiyans from within, so Chi-Chi was right to suspect that initially. You know, as well as getting some useful intel from that Bulma woman. She may be a monkey-like being, but she was quite well furnished in the brain department. Frieza had previously never really put much thought into getting further information about all those other Earthlings and their families, and Son Goku seems to really care about those weaklings. Something that might be an exploitable weakness in the future.
So, you actually sent him off. Now you are alone again. Wasn't the whole purpose of this escapade to cure you of your loneliness, sire?
Berry Blue is there as always with the snarky remarks.
If you think that I miss him, then you are wrong. I was prepared to rule since I was a little grub at my father's side. We live in a different world now, so my little Kuriza needs to adapt if he's ever going to inherit the Empire someday. It's not as simple as handing over the keys one minute and ruling the next. And if he doesn't carry out your mission, will you spurn him and spawn a new creation? No, that only causes trouble, as I'm sure you are very well aware of. We shall never speak of this again. As you wish, Lord Frieza.
Berry Blue smiles. Back on Earth, Vegeta has carried out his compromise and brought Bulla over to Goku's place to play, but he is grumpier than ever.
Hey, Monkey Girl! Monkey Sister and I were just talking about you. Come on, let's play!
Not so fast, you little snake. If anything happens to my baby girl, I'm going to pack you and your father into a capsule and throw that capsule into the nearest star. Do you understand?
You are very strong, but can you really throw that hard?
What? You impertinent little...
Vegeta? Goku chimes in looking quite serious, as if to say, remember the deal.
Fine. Just don't do anything that you will live to regret, little worm.
And so Kuriza is allowed to play with the girls. Even Vegeta, who is watching from afar, must admit that he isn't doing anything bad. Even when they're play fighting, Kuriza isn't really trying to hurt them. They show each other various moves and attacks that they saw the adults perform. Vegeta's not so happy of his baby girl showing off. But wait, when did she learn the final flash? Oh, that's his girl. Okay, this isn't so bad after all. At the end of the day, the three are exhausted and fall asleep in the yard. Vegeta has to admit that, so far, he hasn't seen anything fishy coming from the creature. You know who he reminds me of? Chi-Chi chimes in while giving Vegeta and Goku some tea.
His ugly father?
No, you, Vegeta? Son of an evil ruler who had a lot to prove, who seemed pretty bad at first?
You're pushing your luck.
Meanwhile, on Cold Planet 720, the mysterious figure is confiding with its three minions, now free from their captures as well as the newly recruited Prune and Dilbury, who are only really following him now out of fear.
So he spawned a runt and sent him to Earth. Interesting. He is more foolish than I thought. But that golden form sounds pretty formidable, my lord. Not that you aren't amazing already, of course.
This being said from a worried voice with a hint of a French accent in it.
Oh, don't worry. This facility will allow us to train. I need to get some gains if I am to confront him. As for that golden form, the mysterious villain looks around the room. If my brother could reach it, then so can I.
And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. So what do you guys think? What do you think this figure will do once he gets to Earth? Is Kuriza safe from this new menace? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!